These are 5 study tips that I started doing that transformed my law school grades. I went from failing 8 classes when I was in law school to getting 3 HDs in my last semester. And you can use these tips. It doesn't matter what your grades are, whether you have failed or you got a lower grade, it doesn't matter. I had failed my classes, implemented these tips, and it helped improve my grades. By the way, if you're new here, I'm a lawyer from Melbourne. The content that I post on my blog and on this page is right here, all from my reflections from bouncing back from 8 classes to becoming a lawyer. The first one is previewing your readings. Some examples of previewing your readings is actually going through your lecture slides before you start the chapters of your readings. With cases, it can be trying, if there is a case summary available, read that case summary before you commit to reading the full case. There is a lot of readings, and it's really hard sometimes to keep your attention span and to keep focused, especially with cases where it's not exactly clear at first, especially if you don't have context going into it. So having some sort of preview before you do those long pages of readings can actually help improve that focus and that attention span, because you know what you are getting into before you start those long readings. So as much as you can, if it is possible, if the opportunity arises, get a preview of the readings before you do any of those long readings. The second one is actually a habit to build, which is backing everything up with legislation. So for example, in your notes, let's say for contract law, you are not simply just going to write the concepts. You're actually going to write the concepts, but make sure that you are backing it up with a legislation or a case. So let's pretend that legislation and case is in it. So for example, you're not simply going to write in your notes that an offer and acceptance constitutes a contract. You're not going to just leave it at that. You're actually going to back it up with legislation or cases. So you'll probably insert some examples of case law in it or legislation. But whatever point that you have, don't forget to back it up with something. It may seem time consuming, but the thing is, when it comes to law, answering exam questions, assessment questions, you always have to back it up with something. Like, yes, you can have your opinion, but in the context of studying law, answering law questions, you gotta back it up with something, cases or legislation. And that's why IRAC is going to be your fallback as well. This IRAC is repeated a lot for a reason, but it is a really good fallback to get into when you have a mind blank. Doesn't matter if you're in an exam or in assessment or you're doing classwork or whatever, whenever you are stuck, you just gotta focus on how you can apply IRAC to whatever situation it is, because it doesn't matter what you are doing in law, you're always going to be applying it somehow to whatever situation there is. And whenever you get any sort of grades, whether it's like for the full class or the full unit or for your assessment or for your quiz, whatever, well, I skipped into number 5.